Chapter 1429. If Patriarch Hua and the others were willing to lead the way for them after obtaining the map, they would at least have more chances in the Saint King's tomb. On the contrary, if Luo Qingtong and the rest held the map, even if the other party was willing to lead the way for them with the Ouyang family, they might not be able to get many chances under the other party's protection. After all, family whose strength was low. Even if Luo Qingtong and the others obtained something along the way, it would inevitably be given to family who first. However, if Patriarch Hua and the others held the map of the Saint King's tomb, the things that the top clans did not want would belong to their clans. The crowd instantly distinguished the gains and losses and immediately stood on the side of Patriarch Hua and the others. We also agree with Patriarch Hua and the others. Yes, that map of the Saint King's tomb, if Patriarch Hua and the others hold it, it will make us feel more at ease. The large and small forces who came to participate in the Saint King's tomb convention, after a moment of silence at the beginning, all spoke up and echoed the words of Patriarch Hua and the others. The reaction of these people was not beyond the expectations of Patriarch Ouyang and the others. Even if everyone could see that they wanted to snatch the map of the Saint King's tomb from Luo Qingtong and the others, so what? When it came to their own interests, these people would not stand on Luo Qingtong's side at all. Even if the latter had the backing of Yu Sihuang and the others from the southern region, so what? With their strength alone, they could not be compared to them at all. In this place full of people, no one would stand on their side. After resolving the hidden danger of public anger, what could Luo Qingtong and the others use to compete with the top clans? Patriarch was sneered. Today, even if Yi Jiu did not want to hand over the map of the Saint King's tomb, he had to hand it over. There was no room for struggle. Ninth young master, as you can see, the opinions of everyone present are the same. It can be seen that the map of the Saint King's tomb is what everyone wants. Ninth young master, please consider the big picture and take out the map of the Saint King's tomb. Don't ruin the harmony between us just because of this. After all, we don't want to do it ourselves. It wouldn't be good if there were any unnecessary casualties, wouldn't it? Ninth young master? The Hua family's patriarch's face was complacent, and he looked at Luo Qingtong with ridicule and coldness. Family whose people had put on a show in front of the Hua residence, and he was still angry about it. According to what he knew, all of this had come from the youth before him called Yi Jiu. She was the one who had single-handedly led the changes in Family Hu. She had pulled the Family Hu, which was on the verge of decline, out of the mire. Furthermore, she was the one who had single-handedly destroyed the Bai clan. If it wasn't for Yu Sihuang and the others behind her, how could Family Hu's people survive until now? It had long been destroyed by the Bai family's conspiracy. At the very least, the Hua clan would be able to snatch the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and enjoy it for themselves. They would not need to join forces with so many top clans to attack them and snatch the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Patriarch Hua had made up his mind. Even if they managed to snatch the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, Luo Qingtong would not have it easy. Chapter 1430. Patriarch was sneered. Not to mention anything else, he wanted her to have a taste of the humiliation that Yi Jiu had inflicted on the Hua clan. Patriarch Hua's words were full of threats, and anyone could understand the meaning behind his words. He wanted Luo Qingtong and the others to not give them a chance to attack. Otherwise, they would definitely not show mercy. This threat made Luo Qingtong's eyes narrow fiercely, and the sharpness and blood-red light in her eyes flashed. I also agree with Patriarch Hua's opinion. Unexpectedly, just when everyone thought that Luo Qingtong would not compromise so easily, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded leisurely. The youth gently fanned herself with the folding fan in her hand, and the smile on her lips was half evil and half lazy. She raised her eyebrows slightly as she looked at the eyebrows of the Hua clan's patriarch and the others. Because of her lazy and happy posture, she revealed a different kind of charm, causing her ordinary face, which had been modified, to look a little different from the rest. What? Are you surprised that I said I agree? Luo Qingtong fanned herself and looked disdainfully at Patriarch Hua and the others who were suddenly stunned. In fact, not only them, but even Yu Sihuang and Hu Yenyang were stunned. Young master. Hu Yenyang, Hu Zhongtian, and the others looked at Luo Qingtong. The former was still okay. After being by Luo Qingtong's side for a long time, she had seen many surprises. Although she was surprised, she could still barely control herself. Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei stood up fiercely. Young master. You can't agree to them. Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, and the others were extremely anxious. It was not that they were reluctant to give up the map of the Saint King's tomb. It was because they knew that even if Luo Qingtong really agreed to the other party's wishes, the other party would not let them off easily. They would definitely humiliate and make things difficult for them. Since that was the case, why should they let them get what they wanted so easily? Hu Zhongtian and the others were anxious. Yu Sihuang also frowned as he looked at Luo Qingtong. Little Joer? The other party was not a woman who would be taken advantage of so easily. Yu Sihuang and Luo Qingtong had known each other for quite some time. Naturally, he knew that this seemingly petite, gentle and soft girl had an unruly, cold and domineering soul. The other party was the same type of person as him and Yi Qianxian. They were born with the domineering aura of a king. If you were to soften up and go along with her requests, she would be fine. Even if you were to go overboard, the girl wouldn't be too calculative with you. However, if someone like the Hua clan's patriarch tried to use force to pressure her and force her to lower her head, then she would definitely not compromise easily. Not to mention that the Hua family would suffer. At the very least, these people who were forcing her should not even think about getting their way. What's going on? Yu Sihuang frowned. He had previously advised Luo Qingtong to release a map of the Saint Monarch's tomb if the situation was not right. However, when he saw the attitude of the Hua clan's patriarch and the others, he knew that this matter was hopeless. Who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would actually agree? The Hua clan's patriarch and the others were also quite surprised. They had just seen Luo Qingtong's domineering attitude towards Ouyang Shao and the others. They thought that Luo Qingtong would not agree and were already prepared to take action. They did not expect the other party to actually agree. It seemed that this Yi Jiu was quite self-aware. Chapter 1431. The group of people thought so. Suddenly, Patriarch Hua said proudly, "Ninth young master, please take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb." Hu Yenyang and the others felt their hearts sink when they saw that smug and cold look on his face. However, just as he said that, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded again. "The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb? Why should I take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb?" Luo Qingtong looked real and confused. The young man tilted his head slightly and looked at Patriarch Hua and the others. "Yi Jiu, what do you mean?" Patriarch Hua's face darkened. He looked gloomily in the direction of Luo Qingtong, his face full of anger. Was this Yi Jiu playing with them? "You just said that you agreed with our opinion, and now you ask us why we should take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb?" Patriarch Hua's face was overbearing as he looked at Luo Qingtong condescendingly. "I said that I agreed with your opinion, but I didn't say that I would take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb." Luo Qingtong's face was indifferent as she played with the jade fan in her hand. "Didn't you say that the strongest person would be qualified to have the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and be the leader of everyone?" "That's right." Patriarch Hua looked coldly in the direction of Luo Qingtong. "So, do you think that the combined strength of all of you is stronger than all of the top clans?" Patriarch Hua no longer concealed the fact that the top families had joined forces to seize the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in Luo Qingtong's hands. The latter had taken the initiative to jump into their trap, and admitted that only those who were strong enough could have the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Then, unless she could really find the strength to fight against a group of top-notch families. Otherwise, no matter how she quibbled, the final result would not change. She must hand over the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. He wanted to see what other tricks she could play. Patriarch Hua's eyes were cold, and his words meant that he was determined to get it. There was even a feeling that he wanted to use Luo Qingtong's words to make things difficult for her, even if he got the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. At that moment, the people around Luo Qingtong were stunned. Hu Zhongtian and the others subconsciously began to mobilize the strength in their bodies, preparing to fight Patriarch Hua and the others. Yu Sihuang also suddenly raised his eyebrows. He gestured with his hand and ordered the southern region forces around him to take Luo Qingtong away at all costs. He knew that this woman would not give in. However, after such a fuss, the difficulty of the Saint Monarch's tomb, the tomb would be much more dangerous. He did not care, but it was a little troublesome for Luo Qingtong. After all, she did not have time. The Grand's 4 courtyards' hidden palace. Luo Qingtong would never miss the opportunity to enter the hidden world and occupy a place there. However, if she ran away from the Saint Monarch's tomb today, Patriarch Hua and the others would definitely hunt her down at all costs. Moreover, the other map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was in the Ouyang family, and the other party would definitely be waiting for her at the entrance of the Saint Monarch's tomb. At that time, Luo Qingtong would lose more than she gained. Even if she wanted to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb alone, she would not be able to. Thinking of this, Yu Huang suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong. Did the girl really not think of this? If so, she would not have come to the Saint Monarch's tomb in the first place. Then what was she going to do? Chapter 1432. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. That's right, I just feel that our strength is stronger than yours. Luo Qingtong opened the folding fan in her hand and gently fanned herself in front of her. She looked in the direction of Patriarch Hua and the others with an indifferent expression. What a joke! Patriarch Hua sneered. He looked at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of contempt. If Luo Qingtong had said such words at the beginning, he would have admitted that Luo Qingtong's strength was stronger than theirs, for the sake of Yu Huang and the southern region's forces behind her. But now, he had joined forces with a group of the top families in Wild City, and Luo Qingtong had just offended the Ouyang family. They did not have to worry that the Ouyang family would go back on their word and stand on Luo Qingtong's side. As for the other big and small forces, they were waiting for them to get the map of the Saint King's tomb so that they could follow behind them and take advantage of the situation. Why would they stand on Luo Qingtong's side? It seemed that Luo Qingtong and the others would not be able to get any help at all. Under such circumstances, Luo Qingtong still dared to say that they were stronger than them? This was simply a joke. Did the other party think that they would be afraid by saying this? That's right, Luo Qingtong and the others had been aggressive as soon as they entered the Ouyang family. They even did not hesitate to offend the Ouyang family. Clearly, they felt that such a deliberate act of bravado would cause them to be afraid. They thought that they had a trump card behind them, so they gave up the idea of snatching the map of the Saint King's tomb in their hands? They had a good plan. However, unfortunately, they wouldn't be fooled. Since Ninth Young Master thinks that your strength is stronger than ours, then please show it to us and let us have a look. Otherwise, don't blame us for taking action. Patriarch Hua's face was cold. If Luo Qingtong wanted to humiliate herself, they wouldn't stop her. Let's see what kind of strength she can bring out. Aside from the power brought by Yu Huang and the others, what other power did she have to rely on? Family who? Ha! The smile on Patriarch Hua's face was cold. He wanted to see how the other party would embarrass himself. What's the hurry? Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. From beginning to end, she was not in a hurry. You'll know soon enough. However, I want to confirm one thing first. Will you stop coveting the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb if I'm stronger than you? I won't think of anything else. Shameless solution. At this time, Yu Xingqi quickly followed up on Luo Qingtong's words, and even gave her a mischievous wink. The Hua family's patriarch and the others were furious. They were indeed targeting Luo Qingtong. However, he could do it, but he couldn't say it out loud. Yu Xingqi's words immediately made them feel as if they had been slapped in the face. In particular, the word shameless caused them to feel extremely embarrassed. Humph! The Hua clan's patriarch snorted. As long as you can come up with a strength that's not weaker than ours, we won't complain even if you ask us not to participate in this expedition to the sage monarch's tomb. However, if you can't bring out the corresponding strength. Chapter 1433. He glanced at Luo Qingtong and the rest with a malicious look and snorted. Then all of you, don't participate in this exploration of the Saint King's tomb. Including the Imperial sect leader and all the southern region forces. How about it? Yi Jiu, do you dare to agree? The Hua family head and the rest did not even bother to address him as the ninth young master. In their opinion, Luo Qingtong and the rest could not compare to them at all. Everything that Luo Qingtong said in this clubhouse was just a bluff. Since she wanted to do this, they would let her bluff until the end. They would see if she could bear the consequences of her bluff being broken. The Hua family head's words were very insidious. If Luo Qingtong agreed and did not show that she was stronger than them, then not only would she lose the map of the Saint King's tomb, but she would also not be able to enter the tomb. Not only that, but Yu Si Huang and the rest of the southern region forces would also be implicated. At that time, even Yu Si Huang's reputation in the southern region would suffer a certain blow. After all, so many people could not enter the Saint King's tomb because he had helped Luo Qingtong and missed the opportunity to obtain the opportunity. This impact on his reputation in the southern region could not be said to be small. The Hua family head's words were extremely harsh. As soon as he said this, there was an uproar on the southern region's side. They did not think that Luo Qingtong and the rest could go against the Hua family and the other top families. Even if they added their strength, it would not be enough. The other party had better admit defeat immediately, and then hand over the map of the Saint King's tomb with both hands. This way, they would still have a chance to enter the tomb. Otherwise, they would not be able to keep the map and enter the tomb. The loss would not be worth it. The southern region people were in an uproar. Provoked by the Hua family head's words, they were extremely dissatisfied with Luo Qingtong. King, let's ask her to hand over the map of the Saint King's tomb. Yes. She obviously has no strength, but she still wants to show off. If she implicates us and we can't even enter the tomb, how can they compensate us? My king, don't let Yi Jiu continue to be stubborn. Let her bow down to the Hua family. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to enter the sage monarch's tomb. If you don't have the strength, you should know your place. The people of the southern region could not help but complain. I won't force you. Luo Qingtong looked at them coldly. Yu Si Huang brought these southern mountain range people to help her. She naturally remembered his kindness, but it did not mean that she owed these southern mountain range people. Those who were willing to stay were free to do so. If you don't want to stay, then leave immediately. She would definitely not stop him. She, Luo Qingtong, had never needed to rely on anyone to get through difficult times. If that was the case, she would have died countless times already. She didn't care if these people from the southern mountain range wanted to leave. I agree to Patriarch Hua's request. If you don't want to stay, you can leave now. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Before the people of the southern mountain range could speak, Yu Si Huang gently stroked the tear mole at the corner of his eye. His expression was light and charming as he said lazily, I naturally want to follow little Jiu. Chapter 1434. He glanced at the group of people from the southern region coldly and charmingly. If you're willing to follow, then follow. If not, then leave. For those who stay, the imperial sect will be responsible for all your losses. Now, do you have any more nonsense to say? Yu Si Huang's smile had always been enchanting and charming, coupled with his devilishly handsome face. For no reason, he gave people the impression that he was easy to talk to. However, at this moment, the smile on his face remained, but the light in his eyes was very cold. The aura around him was unusually cold and powerful, and the people from the southern region did not dare to say another word. This was the true aura of the king of the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern region. Those who dared to look down on Yu Si Huang because of his bewitching appearance, in the end, they wouldn't even know how they died. The group of people from the southern region fell silent. Luo Qingtong glanced at Yu Si Huang and did not say anything. Then she looked at the Hua family head and the others who were waiting to watch a good show and said, "Hua family head, did you hear clearly? We agree. Are you sure you want to agree? Don't regret it when the time comes. Say that the Hua family can't make decisions for you." Luo Qingtong said as she glanced at the family heads of the top families. "Humph. You don't have to worry about this. Of course, we have no objections." The family heads of the top families looked disdainful. Was the other party trying to sow discord and create a rift between them and the Hua family head? Unfortunately, they would not do that at all. There was nothing wrong with the Hua family head's method. Forcing Luo Qingtong and the others to not enter the Saint King's tomb meant that they would have one less enemy. After all, the strength of the people from the southern region was still very strong. The family heads of the top families did not have any objections at all and immediately spoke up. "All right." Luo Qingtong looked at them and nodded. "Ouyang family head, everyone, did you hear what they said? When the results are out later, you won't speak up for them anymore, right?" Luo Qingtong said and looked up at the head of the Ouyang family who was sitting on the main seat. Since the beginning of the meeting, the latter had been leading the Ouyang family's people and coldly watching the Hua family's patriarch and the others attack Luo Qingtong and the others. When he heard Luo Qingtong's words, he immediately looked up at her. "Of course not. Our Ouyang clan will naturally make a fair decision." Ouyang family head looked at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of mockery. This Yi Jiao, was he unable to find any breakthrough points or support? He had actually led the topic to himself and the others. Unfortunately, no matter how serious she sounded or how certain she was, he would not stop the Hua family head and the others from taking action. He was just waiting to see how unlucky she was. How would he explain to the imperial sect behind Yu Si Huang? According to his knowledge, within the imperial school, the Yu siblings were not the only ones who had the qualifications to inherit the imperial school. At this moment, Yu Si Huang was supporting Yi Jiao with all his might, looking awe-inspiring and insufferably arrogant. However, if the foundation of the imperial school was shaken because of this matter, he was afraid that the person in the imperial school would not let it go easily. At that time, haha. Not to mention that Yu Si Huang's status as the king of the southern region and his reputation would be damaged. Even his position as the imperial school's patriarch would not be stable. Humph. Chapter 1435. If you don't have any more, then please show us what you've got. If you're not as good as Patriarch Hua and the others, then we can only ask you to leave the Grand Assembly of the Saint King's tomb. After all, those who were not qualified to enter the Saint King's tomb had no reason to stay. Was that not the case? Patriarch Ouyang's face was cold. After he spoke, before Luo Qingtong could speak, a voice suddenly sounded from outside. "Patriarch! Patriarch!" As this urgent voice rang out, a figure rushed in from outside in an instant. It was a guard from the Ouyang family. His feet barely touched the ground as he rushed into the venue like a whirlwind. His voice was urgent and urgent. "Impudent! Where is this place? How can you make such a ruckus?" Patriarch Ouyang was scolding Luo Qingtong. Before he could finish his humiliating words, he was interrupted in front of everyone. Moreover, the Ouyang family guard looked panicked. That hurried figure looked as if he was rolling and crawling as he ran in. This immediately made the Ouyang family head lose his face. In the Wildland City, all the major and minor forces were present. Who would not give the Ouyang family some face? Moreover, even if these people were not present, What force in the Wildland City was worthy of the Ouyang family's guard being so panicked? It was really embarrassing. With that thought in mind, the Ouyang family's head was about to order the people around him to drag the Ouyang family's guard away. The guard had just rushed in from outside. Before he could say anything, he was about to be dragged away by Patriarch Ouyang. He suddenly felt anxious. "No, Patriarch." Just as he opened his mouth, an extremely hearty voice suddenly rang out from the outside at this moment. "The Ouyang family is taking the lead in organizing the Grand Assembly of the Saint King's tomb. I wonder if our people from the Dark Colors Arena have the opportunity and honor to participate in the Grand Assembly of the Saint King's tomb?" As this voice rang out, the body of the Ouyang clan guard who had come to report the news shook violently. His eyes were filled with fear and respect as he looked at the entrance. Someone from the Dark Color Arena. In Savage City, and even in the Western Wastelands, who was the most intimidating force? It wasn't the Ouyang clan or any other clan. It was the Dark Color Arena. Translator, WQL Editor. Alim. This arena was the largest and most powerful force in Far West Wilderness where pioneers vented their negative emotions and ferocious chi. However, it had never participated in the disputes of the Far West Wilderness. Moreover, it was rumored that the power behind it came from the hidden world. Therefore, no one would deliberately provoke them. Therefore, when most people mentioned the forces of the Far West Wilderness, they would skip over them. Even the Ouyang family head was no exception. For so many years, the people of the Dark Color Arena had never participated in anything in the Far West Wilderness. The Ouyang clan, Hua clan, and other top clans relied on this opportunity to rise to power. Therefore, they did not expect that the Dark Colors Arena would participate in the Sage Monarch's tomb incident. Ouyang family head and the others had automatically excluded the existence of the dark-colored arena from the very beginning of the invitation. Chapter 1436. This was the first time in the history of the Far West Wilderness. One had to know that the last time the Dark Colosseum sent people out, it was during the darkest period of power struggle in the Western Wilderness. The various forces were fighting to divide the territories in the Wild City and the Far West Wilderness. Someone had offended the Dark Colosseum and his entire family was annihilated. That force was the #1 force in the Ouyang clan. After the Ouyang clan was annihilated, the Ouyang clan, as one of the top clans, took the opportunity to rise to the top. And the strength and status of that first force in the far west wilderness was much higher than that of the current Ouyang clan. At this moment, everyone was shocked when they heard that the people from the Dark Colosseum had arrived. Bang! 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 The Ouyang clan master and the rest of the top forces stood up and looked in the direction of the door where the sound came from. There, a group of figures walked towards them. The aura of each figure was not weaker than the experts of the top clans behind the Ouyang clan master and the rest. They were not much weaker than the Ouyang clan master and the rest. The man at the front had an imposing aura, and his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. The aura around him was not obvious, but the Ouyang clan master and the rest took a deep breath when they saw him. Director Cheng. The person who came was the person in charge of the Dark Colosseum in the Wild City. At the same time, he was also the person in charge of the Dark Colosseum in the far west wilderness. The group of people from the Dark Colosseum entered the Ouyang clan's martial arts field. When the crowd saw this group of people approaching, they could not help but hold their breaths. The Dark Colosseum had never participated in the matters of the far west wilderness. Why was it making an exception this time? The crowd looked at Director Chang and the rest as they walked closer. They did not know the purpose of the Dark Colosseum's visit. The Ouyang clan master and the rest were even more shocked. If the Dark Colosseum also participated in the exploration of the Saint King's tomb, then the chances of them gaining something, especially a great harvest, would be much smaller. The Ouyang clan master, especially, frowned when he thought of the agreement between himself and Feng Luan. However, he did not show it on his face. Haha! Director Chung, your presence brings light to the Ouyang clan's humble dwelling. As he spoke, he walked towards Chief Steward Chung with a face full of smiles. Ouyang clan master, you're too kind. Director Chung looked at the Ouyang clan master and the Hua clan master who were not far behind him. He smiled and said, "We're here this time, we're here to participate in the grand meeting of the Saint King's tomb. As for the exploration of the Saint King's tomb, we're not participating." As soon as he spoke, everyone present heaved a sigh of relief. It would be great if the Dark Color Arena did not participate in the exploration of the Saint Monarch's tomb. The Ouyang clan master, Ouyang clan master, Ouyang clan masters of Saint Aun clan was ancient. Ouyang clan, sex Ouyang peak, the realm, Ouyang clan's realm. With this thought in mind, everyone's minds immediately relaxed. Ouyang Colosseum. Peak of the Dark Call. Of the sect of. Peak. Alalalalalalalalies of. S. Chapter 1437. Then Chief Steward Cheng, your purpose here is... Ouyang family head looked at Chief Steward Cheng and the others. He glanced at the group of experts from the dark-colored arena behind Chief Steward Cheng. From the looks of it, they didn't seem like they were just here to stroll around the Sage Monarch's tomb. Moreover, they weren't even planning to participate in the Sage Monarch's tomb conference. Why would they want to stroll around? Unless, as Ouyang family head thought of this, his face suddenly turned cold. Behind him, Hua family head and the others seemed to have thought of something, and their faces suddenly turned solemn. Just as their faces turned solemn, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly rang out. Chief Steward Cheng, come over here. As soon as Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, everyone's eyes instantly turned to Luo Qingtong's direction. They saw a delicate young man in green robes with a jade crown tying his hair where family whose people were. His expression was indifferent as he fiddled with the folding fan in his hand. He raised his eyes slightly and looked in the direction of Chief Steward Cheng. He raised his hand and pointed in the direction of the empty space beside him. Hu Yenyang and the others all moved to the side, and the empty space that they moved out of was extremely dazzling, appearing in front of everyone's eyes. What shocked them even more was that Chief Steward Cheng didn't refute Luo Qingtong's words. He just smiled gently and then led the group of people from the dark-colored arena. They walked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. They didn't know what to feel. The people from the dark-colored arena were actually here for Luo Qingtong and the others. When they thought of what Chief Steward Chang had said and saw this scene, how could they not understand what was going on? No wonder Chief Steward Chang said that they were here to participate in the Sage Monarch's Tomb Conference, and not to participate in the exploration of the Sage Monarch's tomb. It turned out that they were here to support Luo Qingtong and the others. When they thought of the bet that Luo Qingtong had just made with Hua family head and the others, everyone's eyes immediately focused on Hua family head and the other top family heads. The moment Luo Qingtong spoke and Chief Steward Cheng and the others walked over, the latter and the others had already turned pale. Especially Hua family head. His face looked as if it had been painted with a layer of white paint. There was no color in his face. Luo Qingtong and the others had actually invited the people from the dark-colored arena to support them. How was this possible? How could the other party have such an ability? One should know that the people from the dark-colored arena would not easily get involved in the far western wilderness's fights. This was a rule in the dark arena. This was one's rules. Even Chief Steward Cheng, as the person in charge of the dark-colored arena in the far west wilderness, had to abide by the rules. Thinking of this, Hua family head and the others felt a little relieved. No matter how this Yi Jiu had invited the other party, with this rule, the other party could not interfere in the matters between them and Yi Jiu. At that time they would still win. While Hua family head and the others were feeling relieved, Yu Si Huang looked at Chief Steward Cheng and the others walking over. He suddenly smiled and looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "I didn't expect little Jiuer to have such a move." As he spoke, he transmitted a message to Luo Qingtong in a low voice. "You used that guest token." Chapter 1438. No wonder the girl was so confident. She didn't care about the people from the southern region behind him. He was worried for nothing. With the strength of the Dark Colosseum, even if all the southern region forces behind him left, the people from the Dark Colosseum alone were enough to embarrass clan head Hua and the others. The pit that these people had dug for Luo Qingtong was all retribution on them. All he had to do was watch over them. When the time came, it would be too late for regrets. Thinking like this, Yu Si Huang suddenly chuckled and relaxed his body that was ready to go. He released all of the aura that he had gathered around him. With the people from the Dark Colosseum present, this battle couldn't be fought. Of course, Clan Head Hua and the others could forget about snatching the map of the Saint King's tomb from Luo Qingtong. Yu Si Huang's face was happy, but Hu Yenyang and Hu Zhongtian's faces were full of surprise. They didn't know that Luo Qingtong had the Dark Colosseum's guest token. They didn't know that after Luo Qingtong dealt with the people sent by Clan Head Hua, they had a premonition that the people from the Hua clan wouldn't leave it at that. In addition, the Ouyang clan was obviously on Feng Wan's side. Just in case, Luo Qingtong left family Hu at that time and went to the Dark Colosseum. She used the guest token as the price to invite the people from the Dark Colosseum to help her. For the matter of the far west wilderness, no matter who she invited, It would be more intimidating than the people from the Dark Colosseum. However, after using the guest token, Luo Qingtong couldn't refuse the invitations and enlistments of the Dark Colosseum in the future. She was going to the hidden world from the beginning. Moreover, the enlistment of the Dark Colosseum was still early, so Luo Qingtong wasn't in a hurry. After the people from the Dark Colosseum walked to Luo Qingtong's side, Manager Ching immediately nodded slightly to Luo Qingtong and said, "Ninth young master, I respectfully listen to your orders." The two of them had already dealt with each other. The dark-colored arena's guest elder medallion was never easily given out. In order to prevent people from abusing their position for personal gain and recklessly issuing guest elder tokens, before using them, there would be a test. As for Luo Qingtong, she was the fastest and the best among all the people Chief Steward Cheng had received. Chief Steward Cheng had never seen someone as powerful as Wen Do. It was as if this line of work was completely made for her. After confirming Luo Qingtong's strength, he was naturally very polite to Luo Qingtong. After all, a guest elder with such literary skills might not be worth much in the outside world, and there was nothing worth paying attention to. However, to the people of the Dark Color Arena, he was a VIP among VIPs. Even if someone from the headquarters came, they probably wouldn't dare to be too presumptuous in front of Luo Qingtong. After all, they still had to rely on Luo Qingtong's literary skills in the future. Chief Steward Cheng's attitude towards Luo Qingtong was very gentle and could even be said to be respectful. Seeing his actions, the surrounding people, including Hu Yenyang and the others, were shocked. The difference was that Hu Yenyang and the others were surprised and delighted. However, the surrounding people looked at Luo Qingtong with surprise and a bad feeling. Wasn't this Chief Steward Cheng's attitude towards Yi Jiu too respectful? Who exactly was the latter? Chapter 1439. Everyone had been in Wild City for so long, but they had never seen Chief Steward Cheng be so respectful and gentle to anyone. Everyone looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. As for Patriarch Hua and the others, their jaws almost dropped. Especially Patriarch Ouyang. He had just spoken nonsense to Luo Qingtong, saying that if she couldn't show the corresponding strength, she should immediately leave the Sage Monarch's Tomb Convention. His words were polite, but everyone could tell from his tone that he was telling Luo Qingtong and the others to leave if they couldn't show the strength. However, before he could finish his words, a group of people from the Dark Colors Arena arrived. He absolutely didn't believe that Luo Qingtong hadn't prepared for a rainy day. The other party had actually been guarding against them from the beginning. They came to the banquet not because they couldn't think of anything else, nor because they were forced by the situation. They had come prepared. The head of the Ouyang family gritted his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. The Hua clan head and the others had an even uglier expression on their faces. They had previously guessed that Chief Steward Cheng and the others were here to support Yi Jiu. They didn't expect that the other party didn't hide it at all and presented it in front of them. Everyone clenched their teeth. Holding on to the last glimmer of hope, Patriarch was suddenly took a step forward and asked, "Chief Steward Cheng, if your people from the Dark Colors Arena aren't going to explore the Sage Monarch's tomb, why did you come to this convention?" Patriarch Hua only hoped to hear an answer that was different from what he had imagined. However, he was disappointed. "We came because of the 9th Young Lord's order." Chief Steward Cheng said this and looked at Patriarch Hua and the others' ugly expressions. He raised his eyebrows and said, "What's wrong? Patriarch Hua, are you dissatisfied with the arrival of our people from the Dark Colors Arena?" As he spoke, his expression had already darkened slightly. Patriarch Hua and the others' expressions became even uglier. How could they dare to say that they were dissatisfied with the arrival of the people from the Dark Colors Arena? The other party only came to the Sage Monarch's Tomb Convention and didn't do anything. But the bad thing was that they had just made a bet with Luo Qingtong. They were betting that the strength of her side was not as strong as that of the top families. However, the appearance of the people from the dark-colored arena had caused their plans to be destroyed. Not only that, but they also reaped what they sowed. The Hua clan's patriarch trembled and almost fainted when he thought of the suggestion that those who were not strong enough would not be allowed to participate in the exploration of the Sage Monarch's tomb. The patriarchs of the other top clans had the same reaction and expression as him. Everyone looked as if they had lost their parents. Seeing this, Chief Steward Cheng raised his eyebrows and looked at Luo Qingtong, asking, "Ninth young master, what's going on?" "It's nothing." Luo Qingtong chuckled as she looked at the Hua family's patriarch and the others who looked like they were about to faint. She chuckled softly and said, "It's just that the Hua family's patriarch made a bet with me. Now that they're about to lose, they can't take it anymore." Not only were they unable to withstand it, the Hua clan's clan head and the others even had thoughts of suicide. They were just waiting to see Luo Qingtong and the others being driven out by the Ouyang family's clan head. In the end, they didn't expect that they would be the ones to lose in the end. How could the Hua clan's clan head and the others accept this? Chapter 1440. Although they didn't know what had just happened, judging from the expressions of the Hua family head and the others, it wasn't a good thing. And the consequences should have been borne by Luo Qingtong and the others. Interesting. This Yizhou was quite cunning. She had deliberately made them set off after the middle of the Sage Monarch's Tomb convention. If she had sent the signal, they wouldn't have to come. If she hadn't sent the signal, they would have come directly to the Sage Monarch's Tomb convention. Obviously, she had thought that there might be people who would make things difficult for her in the Sage Monarch's Tomb convention. She had found them in advance and made preparations. While Chief Steward Cheng was thinking this, the Hua family's patriarch and the others were also unwilling to accept defeat. Especially the Hua family head. He suddenly took a step forward, his eyes bloodshot. He looked at Manager Cheng like a tiger trapped in a cage. "Manager Cheng, the Dark Colosseum has never participated in the disputes of the factions in Wildland City. You all made an oath back then. Are you going to break that oath now?" Following the Hua family head's words, the other family heads of the top families also spoke up. "Yes. Manager Cheng, even if you are friends with Yizhou, you can't use the Dark Colosseum's strength to help her, right?" "That's right. This is against the Dark Colosseum's rules. Yizhou, the Dark Colosseum's people can't make a move. They can't be your backer." The Hua family head and the others were ready to use a trick to change the rules. Even if the Dark Colosseum's people were here to help Luo Qingtong, they couldn't make a move, so they couldn't be considered Yizhou's backer. The group of people made a solemn vow, as if they had found the trick to resurrecting the dead. However, Luo Qingtong only raised her eyebrows and looked at Manager Cheng. Manager Cheng's expression darkened. He looked at the Hua family head and the others with an unfriendly expression. "Are you saying that I abused my authority and used the Dark Colosseum's strength to help Yizhou? Isn't that the case? The Dark Colosseum has never interfered with the matters of the Far West Wilderness. And you're obviously here for Yizhou." The Hua family head and the others did not want to offend this Chief Steward Cheng. However, at this point, if they did not offend the other party, they would lose the qualification to enter the tomb. Moreover, since the other party was acquainted with this Yizhou, no matter if he offended the other party or not, The enmity between them had already been formed, so why should he be so afraid? With that thought in mind, everyone immediately spoke up. Humph. You think too highly of me. I don't have the ability to use the Dark Arena's strength, and I don't have the ability to mobilize so many experts. Since you know that there are rules in the Dark Arena, then you should know that even though I'm in charge of the Dark Arena, I can't go against the rules of the Dark Arena and bring so many people here. Mind your own business. At this point, Chief Steward Chung said coldly, "Ninth Young Master Yi is our Dark Color Arena's VIP. Of course I have something that can use the power of the Dark Arena. As for what it is, you don't need to know." Chapter 1441. The Dark Colosseum itself does not involve itself in any power struggle in the far west wilderness. But the request of the VIP is an exception. Don't tell me you don't understand this principle? As General Manager Chung spoke, his sharp gaze swept across Patriarch Hua and the others. Dealing with the VIP is dealing with our Dark Colosseum. Naturally, we have the qualifications to fight back. At this time, it's not considered of the other top families had an unspeakable resentment after General Manager Chung spoke. If you want to snatch the Saint Monarch's behind him fell silent. Then snatch it. They all knew if you want to snatch the map's identity, then forget it. It had been verified in the by end, the Dark Colosseum. You had to kill Luo Qingtong and the others. They had to risk their lives. Not only did you want to snatch the map, but you also wanted to make it impossible for them to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. Yi Jiu was the Dark Colosseum's VIP. You've dug your own grave, right? She was the Dark Colosseum's VIP, filled with unspeakable regret. But she didn't reveal any power that could rely on the Dark Colosseum because they saw that the other party had a higher chance of winning. Why didn't she use the Dark Colosseum's power from the beginning? Turned out to be backed by people from the Dark Colosseum. Who would dare to provoke her? They wouldn't dare to have designs on the Saint Monarch's tomb map in her hands. Why did she wait for them to make a move before using this power? Patriarch Hua and the others couldn't understand. They didn't know that if they didn't make things difficult for her, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have used that guest token. After all, using that guest token meant that she couldn't avoid the Dark Colosseum's invitation and enlistment. But Patriarch Hua and the others were aggressive. In addition, the Ouyang family was also on Feng Wan's side and prepared to deal with her. Luo Qingtong naturally wouldn't hide that guest token anymore. Patriarch Hua and the others were purely asking for trouble. They thought that Luo Qingtong and the others weren't strong enough and tried to use force to suppress her. In the end, they were rebounded. Patriarch Hua and the others' expressions were extremely ugly. Luo Qingtong crossed her hands, her elbows lightly on the long table in front of her. She leaned forward slightly and looked at Patriarch Ouyang opposite her. Patriarch Ouyang, please be fair and just. Luo Qingtong's words were clearly mocking and counterattacking his previous arrogant words. However, Patriarch Ouyang couldn't even say a word to refute. He was depressed in his heart and looked at Patriarch Hua and the others. The latter and the others' faces were green, white, and almost unbearable to look at. Each one of them was like a color palette. At this moment, when he saw the Ouyang family head looking at him, the expression on his face became even more interesting. Groups of them wanted to plead for mercy. They didn't have the face's face. Not because of anything else, but because they were too arrogant and overbearing before. They had been pressuring Luo Qingtong and the others. However, if they did not plead for leniency, they would be kicked out of the Saint Monarch's Tomb exploration team. Chapter 1442. Even if the Ouyang clan and the other forces of Wild City were to join in, they would not be able to deal with the other party. They were really crazy before to cooperate with the Hua clan head and let him deal with Luo Qingtong without any mercy. The group was even more regretful. Why didn't they refuse when Luo Qingtong asked them if they were sure they wanted to bet with the Hua clan head? If they had refused at that time, they would not be the unlucky ones. The group was restless. On the other side, the Ouyang clan head was being stared at by Luo Qingtong and the people from the Dark Colors Arena. He wanted to protect the Hua clan head and the others, but he had no way to do so. He did not want the Hua clan head and the others to be eliminated. After all, after entering the Saint King's tomb, the strength of Luo Qingtong and the others would be almost the same as theirs. After all, even if the people from the Dark Colors Arena did not participate, Luo Qingtong had the people from the southern region by her side. He looked coldly at the people from the top clans and said in a deep voice, "If you agree to bet, you must accept defeat." After he said these 4 words he said, "You should know what to do in your hearts, right? If these people were smart enough, they would know what to do now. Things like face could only be regained after the benefits were reaped. It was up to them to choose." The faces of the people from the top clans turned even uglier. The Hua clan head's face changed dramatically for a moment, then he gritted his teeth and strode forward, saying, "Let's go." He would rather not participate in this exploration of the Saint King's tomb than bow down to Luo Qingtong and the others. The Hua clan could not afford to lose face again. However, just as he was about to lead the crowd away, he heard the voices of the clan heads of the top clans behind him. "Ninth young master, we were wrong this time. Please be magnanimous and forgive us this time." The group of people from the top aristocratic families understood the meaning of Master Ouyang's words as soon as they heard his voice. Thinking of the possible rich rewards in the Saint King's tomb, the crowd suddenly gritted their teeth and apologized to Luo Qingtong and bowed their heads. After all, they were not the Hua clan head who had a direct grudge with Luo Qingtong. They could only be regarded as blind followers and accomplices at most. If they sincerely begged for mercy and apologized, Luo Qingtong might not continue to haggle over it. With this thought in mind, everyone immediately compromised one after another. Amidst this series of voices, the Hua family head and the others strode out, looking unusually isolated and awkward. He looked at the clan heads of the top clans who had promised to deal with Luo Qingtong with an indescribable embarrassment on his face. How could the Hua clan's patriarch not see that he had been abandoned by these top clans? "You people are really stupid to the extreme? Do you think this Yi Jiu will care about your pleas?" The Hua clan's patriarch sneered. "To her, all of you are powerful competitors. She can't wait to eliminate you to the end to. I don't know how much she likes what I said before. Only people like you who have been blinded by benefits would think that she would spare you. Begging for mercy like this is just asking for your own humiliation." The Hua clan head's voice was furious. Chapter 1443. Who says I won't let them off? As soon as Luo Qingtong's words came out, the surrounding people, including Hu Yenyang, Yu Sihuang, and the others were all shocked. Everyone's eyes were on her. Luo Qingtong wanted to let these people off? The other party and the Hua family head were making things difficult for her. If Luo Qingtong didn't have the Dark Arena's guest elder token as her trump card, who knows how they would have bullied her in this Sage Monarch's Tomb convention. Now, she actually wanted to let them off? This wasn't her style. Yu Sihuang, Hu Yenyang, and the others all looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. The latter didn't explain and just looked in the direction of the Hua family head and the others with an indifferent face. I didn't want to offend all the top forces in the wild city. It's just that you were aggressive, and I had to fight back. As she said, she smiled at the Hua family head and said, "Since you are all willing to apologize, it's not like I can't forgive you. It's just that," as she said, her eyes glanced at the crowd and fell on the Ouyang family head. She smiled and said, "I need the Ouyang family head to take out the Ouyang family's map of the Sage Monarch's tomb and take a look." Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the people present were even more stunned. They all looked at Luo Qingtong with a puzzled face. She wanted to see the Ouyang family's map of the Sage Monarch's tomb? That map, even if Luo Qingtong didn't ask the Ouyang family head to take it out, he would have taken it out before the Sage Monarch's tomb convention ended and combined it with the map in her hands to form a new route. With this request, wasn't Luo Qingtong purposely letting off this group of people from the top families? What was she thinking? The group of people didn't know what Luo Qingtong wanted to do. Needless to say, Yu Sihuang and Hu Yenyang, especially Yu Sihuang, he found that he was getting more and more confused about the girl's train of thought. He was the king of the southern mountain range, but in front of Luo Qingtong, he was like a fledgling who did not know how to scheme. He had no idea what she was going to do. When Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong were together, did they often feel this way? If that was the case, it was no wonder that Yi Qianxian would fall in love with Luo Qingtong. Only Luo Qingtong could give them this kind of unfathomable feeling of surprise and shock, right? Young girls were truly different from ordinary girls. Thinking like this, Yu Sihuang immediately stared at Luo Qingtong's body. At the same time, the cold voice of the Ouyang patriarch could be heard. "Yi Jiu, what do you mean by this?" The head of the Ouyang family was a little angry. Even if he was very afraid of the strength of the Dark Colosseum, it did not mean that he could let Luo Qingtong do whatever she wanted. It was really strange for the boy to make such a request. Could it be that he had designs on the Ouyang family's map of the Sage Monarch's tomb? The head of the Ouyang family thought like this, and suddenly his face was filled with anger. Looking at Luo Qingtong, his gaze was also very unfriendly, revealing a cold mood that was about to take action. If the boy really dared to say, yes, then don't blame him for not caring about the strength of the Dark Colosseum and taking action against him. Chapter 1444. Ouyang Family Head, why are you panicking? I just want to borrow the Ouyang family's map of the Saint Monarch's tomb to have a look, in case something unexpected happens. After all, there are too many things happening in the Saint Monarch's tomb conference. Isn't that so? Luo Qingtong's words were obviously referring to something. That, too many things happening, was obviously referring to the Ouyang family head, Hua family head, and the others who had attacked Luo Qingtong. The Ouyang family head's face was ugly. However, in his heart, he was quietly relieved. It turned out that Luo Qingtong was worried about this. No wonder she was willing to let go of those people from the top families. Thinking that he had figured out the reason why Luo Qingtong was doing this, the Ouyang family head suddenly felt relieved. This was an excellent opportunity for him. As long as he agreed, he would not only have helpers in the Saint Monarch's tomb, but also gain the gratitude of the top families and get a lot of benefits. The Ouyang family head didn't need to think too much at all. He was just worried that after entering the Saint Monarch's tomb, there would only be one top force, and they would be too weak. Moreover, if he agreed to Feng Wan's request, there must be enough top families to enter. Thinking so, he immediately agreed to Luo Qingtong's request. Okay, if you agree to let them have the qualification to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb again, I will show you the Ouyang family's map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. However, it must be in front of everyone. And you can't hold it for too long, the Ouyang family head said. Okay. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. How about a quarter of an hour? Why so long? The Ouyang family head looked at her suspiciously. She had the family whose map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hand. Shouldn't she just take a look and know the authenticity of the Saint Monarch's tomb map? The Ouyang family was the first to announce this news. If I don't take a closer look, I'm afraid I can't compare to the Ouyang family head's means. Luo Qingtong's words were unusually obvious. The Ouyang family head snorted coldly and suddenly said nothing. He waved his hand and signaled his confidant to retrieve the map of the sage monarch's tomb. At the same time, Patriarch Hua and other members of the Hua family stood not far away from Luo Qingtong and the others. Their faces were full of embarrassment and unwillingness. Patriarch? An elder of the Hua clan looked at the patriarch of the Hua clan. Stay here. Hua family head gritted his teeth. He had wanted to lead everyone away. However, they didn't expect that the group of people from the top clans would abandon them. At this time, in order to verify the authenticity of the Ouyang family's map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, Luo Qingtong agreed to let the people from the top families go. The Hua family head was so angry that he almost vomited blood. If he had known that Luo Qingtong would let them go for the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, why would he have been in such a hurry to leave? Now that he was riding a tiger, it was hard to get off. He could neither leave nor stay. If they didn't leave, they would lose face. If they left, they would lose the chance to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. How could the Hua family head be willing? Anyway, when Luo Qingtong and the Ouyang family head agreed, they didn't say that the Hua family was not included among the families that would be let go. Then they would force them to stay. Who asked Yi Jiu to create such a loophole? The Hua family didn't break the agreement. Chapter 1445. Sister, these people from the Hua family are so shameless. Yu Xingqi noticed all this and immediately whispered in Luo Qingtong's ear. As she spoke, she looked in the direction of the Hua family head and the others. Yu Xingqi's voice was not soft, and many people from other families heard it. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked in the direction of the Hua family head and the others. The latter and the others were suddenly stared at by so many people's unclear gazes, and suddenly their faces turned red and white. But so many top families could enter the Saint King's tomb. It was absolutely impossible for the Hua family head to give up just like that. Immediately, the Hua family's patriarch faced everyone's gazes with his thick skin. Didn't she say that she doesn't care about our previous bet? Since they don't care about it, our Hua family naturally can't care about it anymore. He sneered. Then he looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with a cold and arrogant face. So what if Luo Qingtong and the others were unhappy in their hearts? Who told them not to make it clear just now? They took advantage of the loophole for no reason. Who was to blame? Looking at the Hua family head's smug face, Yu Xingqi felt depressed. Sister. Brother, they are too shameless. What should I do? Yu Xingqi pouted and looked at Luo Qingtong with an eager face. She didn't know if Luo Qingtong would let her do it. If it weren't for the fear of ruining Luo Qingtong's business, she would have done it long ago. Don't pay attention to them. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't even look at the Hua family head and the others. Did the other party really think that if she didn't do it deliberately, they could escape this disaster and shamelessly stay here to give her a hard time? They even looked like they were showing off. In the future, they would know what it meant to be unable to cry even if they wanted to. Luo Qingtong let the Hua family head and the others go for a reason. It was the same for those people from the top families. Did these people really think that she was so easy to talk to? Or was she so negligent? Were they kidding? Luo Qingtong's gaze glanced at the Hua family head and the others, and finally focused on the Ouyang family head's confidant not far away. The latter was holding the map of the Saint King's tomb in his hand. From afar, Luo Qingtong could feel the mutual attraction between the maps of the Saint King's tomb. The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, the overall map, and the 4 incomplete maps, were finally complete. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed and the blood-red light in her eyes disappeared. Humph! Give it to her. Ouyang family head snorted coldly. He raised his hand and asked his confidant to bring the map of the Saint King's tomb to Luo Qingtong. In front of so many people, the other party would not dare to snatch the map of the sage monarch's tomb. Otherwise, even if the other party had the support of the Dark Colors Arena, he still had enough reason to make things difficult for her. Moreover, the people of the Dark Color Arena would not allow him to do so, because it would ruin their reputation. The Hua family head thought so. He wasn't worried that the Saint King's tomb map would be snatched. Luo Qingtong didn't intend to snatch it either. She didn't need to use such a low-level method. In front of so many people, the Hua family head had something on her. She took the Saint King's tomb map. The moment she lowered her head to look at it, the bloody light in her eyes flashed. Chapter 1446. Luo Qingtong's eyes swept across the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Like an X-ray, she imprinted every inch of the map's texture and hidden lines. However, in the eyes of the crowd, Luo Qingtong was looking down at the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. She looked at it very carefully, almost from top to bottom, scanning every detail. However, the crowd already knew the reason why Luo Qingtong asked Ouyang family head for this map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. They did not feel that this young man's action was abrupt. If Luo Qingtong was just looking at it casually, they would really feel strange in their hearts, okay? This was the psychology of people. They always felt that if you did not check carefully for something that you tried so hard to get, there must be something fishy about it. While everyone was thinking about this, Luo Qingtong calmly imprinted the map of the Ouyang family's Saint King's tomb into her eyes. She closed her eyes slightly and withdrew the bloody light and the topographic pattern of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Then, she raised her head and looked in the direction of Ouyang family head. Thank you for your generosity, Ouyang family head. Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a smile. Wasn't this a generous gift? Ouyang family head was equivalent to giving the entire map of the Saint Monarch's tomb to her. She should thank him. Humph. Ouyang family head did not understand the meaning of Luo Qingtong's words. He looked at the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb handed over by Luo Qingtong and raised his hand to take it. Previously, he did not seem to care, but in fact, he had been staring at the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in Luo Qingtong's hands. However, in front of everyone, Luo Qingtong did not do anything. That map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was held in her hands. From the beginning to the end, it had never left their sight. It was impossible to do anything to it. Ouyang family head was very relieved. After taking the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, he looked at Luo Qingtong and said, Yi Jiu, this map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, you have seen it. Now, you should take out the map in your hand. Let's combine the maps together and show the corresponding route, right? Ouyang family head's face was cold. The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb that belonged to family who was not snatched from Luo Qingtong's hands, which made him feel very depressed in his heart. However, the saint's tomb had to be explored. It was impossible to not cooperate with the other party just because the map was in Luo Qingtong's hands. What's the hurry? Luo Qingtong's eyes' lips. Had Xie's tomb, S tombs, Lu's tombs was already she had collected all the maps S tomb, San the Monarch's tombs. SS. This was. Later, Hua family head and the others would know what it meant to regret. Chapter 1447. Everyone was suddenly surprised. Was this Yi Jiu crazy? Why did he suddenly say such a thing? Previously, Clan Head Hua and the others had tried every means to get their hands on the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, but they failed to get it. In the end, they were slapped in the face again and again. Now, she actually took the initiative to sell it? How stupid was it for Clan Head Hua and the others to send themselves to be slapped in the face? The crowd thought so and suddenly looked at Clan Head Hua and the others who were not far away with a strange expression. Among them were the clan heads of the top clans. At this moment, they all looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief and could not react for a long time. Yi. Ninth young master. Do you really want to sell the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in your hand? Since you said it, you will never go back on your words? A clan head of a top clan came back to his senses and immediately asked impatiently. Of course. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she nodded and said, As long as you can afford to pay a price that satisfies me, this map of the Saint Monarch's tomb is yours. As soon as she said this, in an instant, the clan heads of the top clans who originally did not have any hope of getting the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb went crazy. However, they still retained a trace of rationality. A clan head of a top clan looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with a vigilant expression and said, This map of the Saint Monarch's tomb is related to the harvest in the Saint Monarch's tomb. There is a huge difference between having a map and not having one. Why do you want to give this map to us? As soon as this clan head of a top clan spoke, in an instant, the other clan heads of the top clans also looked in Luo Qingtong's direction. The question in the clan head's heart was also in the minds of the rest of the top clans. To be able to sit in his current position, none of the people present were truly stupid or foolish. At this moment, in the face of Luo Qingtong's behavior, which was like a pie falling from the sky, the clan heads of the top clans were full of doubts. They really wanted the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb very much. However, this did not mean that they knew that there might be a trap ahead and would jump into it. How could a map of the Saint Monarch's tomb be more important than their respective clans? If Luo Qingtong could not clearly explain the reason, they would not even touch the map of the Saint King's tomb even if it was right in front of them. They had just conspired with the Hua family head and ended up being slapped in the face by Luo Qingtong. The scene of them almost not being able to explore the Saint King's tomb was still vivid in their minds. How could they still take Luo Qingtong's unusual action lightly? You don't have to be so nervous. He had done everything possible to deal with Yi Jiao and the others, yet he still had the nerve to participate in the auction of the Saint Monarch's tomb map? Even the outermost walls of Savage City, which were strong enough to withstand the attacks of adult saint beasts, were not as thick as his skin. The Wang family head snorted coldly. Hua family head, I'm afraid you've forgotten how you dealt with ninth young Master Yi just now. How dare you bid for the map of the sage monarch's tomb? The Hua clan really has a good upbringing. You're so shameless now that you can't get it. The Wang clan's strength was inferior to the Hua clan's, so they were not afraid of Patriarch Hua. On the contrary, if they could get the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb that Luo Qingtong sold and gain something in the Saint Monarch's tomb, the Wang clan would be able to shake off the Hua clan in minutes. At that time, who knew who would be groveling in front of whom? However, excluding the top families with strong backgrounds, Luo Qingtong's map of the sage monarch's tomb couldn't be sold at a high price. Ouyang family head's words seemed to be impartial, but in fact, they were full of threats. If Luo Qingtong agreed, then the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hands would be sold at a cheap price. Ouyang family head was confident that Luo Qingtong would not make such a choice. Of course, if the other party really wanted to make such a choice, that was fine too. Selling the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb at a cheap price had caused Luo Qingtong to suffer a huge loss. Chapter 1450. As soon as Ouyang family head said this, in an instant, Luo Qingtong's people and those from the top clans all cursed him in their hearts for being shameless. Especially those from the top clans, they had already made up their minds to take advantage of this auction. The Hua family would not be able to participate in this auction to get the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. They did not expect Ouyang family head to intervene at this time and help the Hua family. If Luo Qingtong was really willing to take a gamble and not let the Hua family participate, then these people would have no chance to participate in the auction. While this group of people was about to go crazy with anger, the remaining people from the top clans were wild with joy. For these people, this was a complete surprise, a pie that fell from the sky. This was really a surprise. If Luo Qingtong really did not allow the Hua family to participate, then these people would have a chance to bid for the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Thinking of this, the crowd suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong with excitement and excitement. The latter raised her eyebrows slightly. She looked at the Hua family head and Ouyang family head who were looking at her with a cold and proud face, then smiled and nodded, saying, "Okay." Luo Qingtong's expression was very indifferent. She tapped her fingers on the long table in front of her and looked at the Ouyang family head and Hua family head with a meaningful look in her eyes. The Hua family can participate in this auction of the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. I will not stop them. As soon as Luo Qingtong said this, the people from the top clans instantly showed a look of disappointment on their faces. The family heads of the top clans, on the other hand, were greatly relieved. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong was not so short-sighted to the point of refusing the Hua family. However, when they thought of the Hua family participating in the auction of the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, they could not help but feel stifled in their hearts. In short, no matter what decision Luo Qingtong made, it would be very disadvantageous for them. And all of this was because of the Ouyang family. The other party actually sided with the Hua family and threatened Luo Qingtong by not allowing them to participate in the auction. Otherwise, how could the Hua family have a chance to compete with them? As the crowd thought of this, they were extremely dissatisfied with the Ouyang family head. It was the same for the Hua clan who had shamelessly competed with them for the map of the sage monarch's tomb. A group of people from the top families gathered together and automatically excluded the Hua and Ouyang families. This auction instantly divided them into two factions. The Hua family head and the Ouyang family head were on one side, while the other family heads were gathered on the other side. There was a clear distinction between the two sides. Luo Qingtong looked at this scene with a smile on her face. However, I don't want any resources in this auction. I only want your businesses. I'll sell a map of the sage monarch's tomb to whoever can offer the most valuable assets. As Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, in an instant, the faces of the people around her were shocked. There was no other reason. If the resources were given to Luo Qingtong, these families could obtain them again. However, if the assets were to be given to Luo Qingtong, then the strength of their families in the future would rapidly shrink. Especially the assets in the wilderness city, there was a fixed number. This Yi Jiao's appetite was huge. Chapter 1451. As the crowd thought so, they all looked at Luo Qingtong in bewilderment. The latter was not in a hurry and just waited for the Hua family head's reply. The Hua family agrees. When the Hua family head heard Luo Qingtong say that she wanted to compete with their businesses, his face was full of shock. But soon, he gritted his teeth and agreed. For no other reason, Luo Qingtong must have said this to force them to back off. He would never be fooled. What's more, they would give them their businesses. After they entered the Saint King's tomb and gained something, they would definitely make Luo Qingtong and the others suffer. At that time, it was still uncertain whether they could leave the Saint King's tomb alive. So what if they took their businesses? As the Hua family head thought so, he instantly looked at Luo Qingtong with a cold gaze and nodded in agreement. He was the first to speak. The other family heads of the top families were still a little hesitant. Now that the Hua family head had agreed first, and if they did not agree, then this map of the Saint King's tomb would be his. How could the family heads of the top families be willing? Immediately, they nodded in agreement. Even if they could not get the map of the Saint King's tomb in the end, they would not let the Hua family get away with it so easily. The crowd snorted coldly and agreed. After they all agreed, Luo Qingtong nodded indifferently. Good. In that case, you can start the auction now. At the base of 10% of your businesses. Of course, the 10% of your businesses I'm talking about are your businesses in the Wild City, and those in other places are not included. Don't think you can get away with it. In addition, I will entrust the people of the Dark Color Arena to help me collect these businesses. Don't even think about scheming against me. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent. As soon as she said this, several family heads of the top families who were thinking of using the worthless businesses in other remote cities and wild wastelands to make up the numbers suddenly put away their crooked thoughts and began bidding. The crowd cautiously increased the price. After all, this was their business, not a resource that they had obtained. If it was resources, of course they could call it whatever they wanted. As a top family clan, they naturally had abundant resources. But when it came to property, he had to be more careful. After losing too many properties, their status as a top-tier family was no longer guaranteed. After all, their assets were their foundation. This was also the reason why their family could become a top-tier family. However, no matter how leisurely they bid, the few families competed together. Soon, the price was close to 50% of the property. This was almost half of the foundation of these top clans. At this point, almost none of the patriarchs of the top clans continued to bid. The person who offered this price was someone from the Wang clan. At this moment, the Wang family head was gritting his teeth as he looked at the people from the top families around him. He wanted to see who could offer a higher price than him. Any higher and it would exceed the bottom line of these top clans. After all, losing more than half of their assets was enough to cause their family's rank to drop. With every 10% increase, the strength of their clans would plummet. The Wang family head was the first to call out a 50% price. Basically, victory was already in his hands. The Hua family head's face twitched violently. Just as he was about to call out a 50% price, the Wang family head took the initiative. Now, if he wanted to get the map of the sage monarch's tomb, he would have to bid higher. Thinking of this, he felt a wave of heartache. Chapter 1452. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Oh right. There's something I need to tell you. Luo Qingtong smiled and said to the crowd, if your assets are not enough or exceed the expected bottom line, you can borrow from others. I'm willing to accept. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent. In an instant, Patriarch Hua's eyes narrowed. They could borrow from others? Then Patriarch Wang and the others. Could they buy the map of the Saint King's tomb? Patriarch Hua was anxious at the thought of this. If that was the case, he would not be able to obtain the map if they joined forces. He thought about how he had offended all the top families in order to get the map of the Saint King's tomb. If he did not get anything in the end, Patriarch Hua was afraid that he would go crazy. No. He must get the map of the Saint King's tomb. 80%. We, the Hua family, will give you 80% of the assets. Patriarch Hua roared out these words through gritted teeth. Everyone was still immersed in Luo Qingtong's words and did not know what she meant. Patriarch Hua's voice rang out. In an instant, the crowd was shocked by his bid. 80%. Was Patriarch Hua crazy? He increased the price by 30%. This was 2/3 of the entire Hua family's assets. If the Hua family took out these assets, their strength would immediately fall to that of an intermediate family. Just for a map of the Saint King's tomb that he did not know what he would get in the end and whether it would be enough to offset the price he had paid. Everyone present looked at the crazy Patriarch Hua as if they were looking at a lunatic. The latter did not care about others' gazes. 80%. Patriarch Hua's eyes were bloodshot. Who else is following? Patriarch Hua's heart was bleeding as if it had been stabbed countless times by someone. The Hua family had almost given up all their assets for 80% of their assets. Did these people think that he would not be heartbroken? However, he would leave these businesses to Luo Qingtong and the others for the time being. When he obtained the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and explored it, he wanted to Luo Qingtong and the others to not be able to walk out of the tomb. Patriarch Hua's heart was filled with killing intent. He looked coldly in the direction of Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "Yi Jiu, 9th young master. Start counting." 80%. Even if the Wang family wanted to borrow from others to suppress him, there wasn't enough time to discuss it with others. He was definitely going to win this auction. The Hua family head's heart was filled with pride. He endured the pain in his heart and looked at Luo Qingtong provocatively. She wanted him to lose the map of the Saint King's tomb? Dream on. He was determined to get the map of the Saint King's tomb. Luo Qingtong looked at the Hua family head's provocative eyes and laughed. "There's no need to count anymore. Hua family head, you've won." Luo Qingtong's words just now were deliberately said for Patriarch Hua to hear. Otherwise, why didn't she say it earlier or later? Why did she say it when Patriarch Hua was about to bid 60%? Others did not know what number Patriarch Hua was about to call, but Luo Qingtong could read lips. She could tell what price Patriarch Hua was going to bid. If Luo Qingtong did not speak, Patriarch Hua would have won the auction with 60% of the price. Chapter 1454. The people from the Dark Colors arena were eyeing them covetously from the side. Luo Qingtong had used the guest elder token just for this matter of the Sage Monarch's Tomb conference. These people naturally had to handle this matter beautifully and properly for the other party. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a disgrace to the Dark Colors arena's reputation? In the future, who would be willing to value the guest elder token of the Dark Colors arena? Patriarch Hua, please. Chief Steward Chung, who had been silent all this while, spoke at this moment. As soon as he spoke, no matter how unwilling Patriarch Hua was, he had no choice but to sign this property deed. After all, under the watchful eyes of so many people, he had called out the 80% price and urged Luo Qingtong to hurry up and announce that he had won the bid. There was no room for quibbling at all. If he dared to go back on his word, the people from the Dark Colors arena had the right to enforce it. At that time, the Hua family would be the ones losing face. And because of this, they would have to go against the people from the Dark Colors arena. The gains did not make up for the losses. As Patriarch Hua thought of this, he almost broke the pen in his hand. Swish, swish, swish. He gritted his teeth and quickly signed the deed. "Here you go." He threw the deed onto the table in front of Luo Qingtong fiercely. This Yi Jiu better not be complacent. Sooner or later, he would take back all these properties from her in the Sage Monarch's tomb. At that time, he would make her pay back all the humiliation she had inflicted on the Hua family 1,000 times over. Patriarch Hua was panting with anger. He looked like an enraged fighting bull as he stared fiercely at Luo Qingtong. The latter didn't care at all. In this life and her previous life, there were many people who hated her and wanted her life. Who was Patriarch Hua to her? Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She picked up the contract and glanced at the Hua family head's signature. Then, she tapped the table and looked at Hu Zhongtian and the others who were not far away from her. "Family who? Is your family who willing to swear a heavenly oath to be loyal to me?" As Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, the surrounding people suddenly understood. As expected, Yi Jiu came to the Hua family's business to pave the way for family Hu. The people from family Hu were really lucky. They actually got themselves such a great god. Other things aside, Yi Jiu was able to invite the king of the southern region and the people from the Dark Colors arena. Family whose people were really lucky to be able to get her help. If it weren't for Yi Jiu, even if family who was lucky enough to escape the Bai family scheme, they wouldn't have been able to escape the fight for the map of the sage monarch's tomb. If it weren't for Yi Jiu, family whose entire family would have been wiped out the moment the map of the sage monarch's tomb was exposed. Chapter 1455. After surviving a great disaster, one was bound for good fortune. Not only did they rely on Yi Jiu to avoid a calamity that almost wiped out their entire clan, but they were also able to obtain such a great fortune. 80% of the top-notch clan's property. And it was the Hua clan's property, which was considered one of the best among the top-notch clans. As long as family who obtained this property deed, they would immediately be able to leap from being at the bottom of the middle-ranked clans to being comparable to the top-notch clans. This fortune was something that countless middle-ranked clans might not be able to achieve, even if they spent 100 years and possessed good luck and opportunity. But now, family who had achieved it so easily. Countless clans below the top-notch clans looked at the property deed in Luo Qingtong's hands with envy. If this property deed was given to them, they would immediately make a heavenly oath without hesitation and acknowledge Luo Qingtong as their master. After all, everyone knew the weight and value of 80% of the clan's property. Unfortunately, they did not have the luck. The crowd looked at Hu Zhongtian and the others with envy and jealousy. However, the latter and the others were still in a daze. What did ninth young master mean by this? Was she going to give this property deed that represented 80% of the Hua clan's property to family Hu? Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, and the rest of family who were all stunned. Only Hu Yenyang and Chu Lingfeng were so happy that they could not control themselves. Chu Lingfeng's thoughts were simple, so he did not think too much. He only felt that it was great that his grandfather and uncle could work for his master with him and his mother. Hu Yenyang was so happy that she cried. No one knew better than her what Luo Qingtong's words meant. The young lady had risen from the Blackfield sub-city of Eastern Fence Country. She had shocked the world with her first demonstration of her talent. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye's name was known by everyone in the 4 regions of heavenly evolution. She also had the Black Field as her backing. That supremacy of the Black Field was so devoted to her master. If family who could be accepted by Luo Qingtong, then the far west wilderness would definitely not be the end of their development. To the Hu family, this was absolutely a massive lucky chance. Father, big brother. Hu Yenyang couldn't help but cry out. Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei immediately snapped out of their daze. They looked at the excited Hu Yenyang and Chu Lingfeng, and then looked at Luo Qingtong, who had an indifferent expression. They immediately cupped their fists and knelt down saying, "We are willing." Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, and the others didn't know Luo Qingtong's identity. However, their entire family was saved by Luo Qingtong, not to mention that Luo Qingtong had reunited their family. At this moment, Hu Zhongtian had his son and daughter by his side. Family Hu, who was on the brink of extinction, was also revived. Such great kindness. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong only wanted them to pledge their loyalty. Even if she asked them to use the lives of family Hu in exchange for her safety, they wouldn't even blink an eye. They had received too much kindness from Luo Qingtong, and they were only willing to repay it with their lives. Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, is willing to swear a heavenly oath to pledge loyalty to the ninth young master. Luo Qingtong looked at Hu Zhongtian and his son, who were half kneeling on the ground with cupped fists. She smiled and moved her lips slightly. Her words were sent into their ears by a special sound wave. My name is Luo Qingtong. You can also swear on my other name, Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. As Luo Qingtong's voice entered their ears, Hu Zhongtian and his son suddenly raised their heads and looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with shock and excitement. Chapter 1456. Hu Zhongtian and his son did not have much of an impression of the name Luo Qingtong. But even Hu Fei, who had just regained consciousness, had heard of the name Evil Physician Gui Tong. He was the future of the Black Field and a genius alchemist. His abilities were far beyond that of an average alchemist. More importantly, although he was a man, he was able to make the supreme martial artist of the Black Field fall in love with him. Such a young man was actually the Yi Jiu in front of them. Hu Zhongtian and the rest were shocked. Soon they thought of another problem. It was rumored that there was a shopkeeper Yen by evil physician Gui Tong's side, who helped him manage many matters in the Blackfield mansion. This shopkeeper Yen The two of them could not help but look at Hu Yenyang, who was standing next to them. The latter smiled with tears in her eyes as she looked at the questions in their eyes and nodded gently at them. Yes, that's right, father, big brother, I am shopkeeper Yen of the Black Field. I am in charge of all matters in the Black Field for evil physician Gue Tong. Hu Yenyang's gaze and performance clearly told them this. Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei were hit by a huge sense of surprise and happiness in an instant. Especially Hu Zhongtian. He had always felt guilty towards Yenyang and did not dare to ask her how she was doing outside, what she had been doing all these years, or who Yizhou was. Now, he knew all about it. His daughter was shopkeeper Yen, who had a high status in the Black Field. No wonder Yenyang was so dignified when she returned this time. It was no wonder that she respected Yizhou so much. Ha ha ha. Under the puzzled gazes of the crowd, Hu Zhongtian suddenly laughed and then knelt down heavily on his other leg. He knelt down on both knees and kowtowed heavily to Luo Qingtong. Family Hu Zhongtian pays his respects to master. His voice was filled with joy and reverence, and at the same time, with deep gratitude. He was grateful to Luo Qingtong for saving his daughter so that she would not have to wander around outside and die. He even gave her such glory. Thank you, master, for taking care of our family Hu. Our family Hu will never be able to repay your kindness. In the future, I will serve you with my life. Anyone who violates this will be punished by heaven and earth. Heaven and earth will punish him. Following Hu Zhongtian's words, the voices of Hu Fei and the others were also heard. As they swore their oaths to heaven and earth, there was a boom in an instant, and the clear sky was like a thunderbolt. The heavenly Tao accepts the oath. In the future, if anyone from family who disobeyed Luo Qingtong's orders and was disloyal to her, they would immediately fulfill their oath and be punished by the heavens. As soon as this oath was made, everyone in the 4 seats was very surprised. Not because of anything else, but because the people from family who had made the highest vow to heaven and earth. Not only that, they even sold themselves to Luo Qingtong. In the future, he could only listen to the other party's orders and could not disobey in the slightest. Everyone had originally thought that they would only swear loyalty to their businesses and would still maintain their independence in other areas. Who would have thought that the people from family who would make such a vow the moment they opened their mouths? Were the people from family who crazy? Even if Yizhou had saved them and given them such an opportunity, there was no need for them to sell their entire lives to him. The families from Wild City were in disbelief and could not understand the thoughts of the people from family who. Chapter 1457. Other people, even if they knew Luo Qingtong's identity, wanted to be like Hu Zhongtian and the others, but Luo Qingtong might not accept them. The reason why she accepted family whose people was mostly because of Hu Yenyang and Chu Lingfeng. Moreover, Luo Qingtong's 80% share of the Hua family's property really needed someone to take care of it. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to help Su Yu and the others gain a foothold in Wild City. But with 80% of the Hua family's property in her hands, she changed her mind. Su Yu and the others had already received the resources from the Bai family and the Voodoo sect. If they also received 80% of the Hua family's property, they would not be able to swallow it all in a short period of time. Moreover, the Hua family's property was deeply rooted in Wild City. If a family like family who already had a foothold in Wild City, obtained it, it would not cause too much of a backlash. But if a new power suddenly appeared and obtained it, it would inevitably attract the attention of many families in Wild City. At that time, everyone would know that heavenly diabolism was her power. For example, the Ouyang family and the others would definitely do their best to deal with them. This would be disadvantageous to Su Yu and the others, and was not Luo Qingtong's original intention. Therefore, it was best for family whose people to take over. Family who was originally an old family in Wild City, and they had their own connections. They were also not unfamiliar with the Hua family's property. Not only would it be easy to take over, it would also not attract too much attention and backlash. With heavenly diabolism's people, one in the light and one in the dark, it could not be better. In the future, she wanted the entire far west desolate region to be her world. In the Sky Spill 4 regions, only the far west desolate region did not have a unified power. It was just right for Luo Qingtong to establish and expand her own power. She wanted her name to be mentioned in the Sky Spill continent, no longer as the Blackfield's evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Instead, she would be the master of the far west desolate region, Evil Eye. Yi Qianxian was the Eastern Domain's supreme, and she wanted to be the Western Domain's demon lord. He swore that he would stand by his side openly and fight against him as an equal. No one in the world could say anything about it. In her entire life, Luo Qingtong had never been willing to be under anyone. Even if she was facing the man she fancied, it was still the same. Moreover, the Huas had once humiliated Hu Yenyang by handing over 80% of their assets to the family Hu to manage. This was a huge gift from her to Hu Yenyang, so that she could properly vent her anger. Good. Since you are willing to recognize me as your master, then this is a gift from me to you. Also, here are 10 sets of pills that I obtained from the Blackfield's evil Dr. Ghost Eye. They can help you clear out the accumulated diseases in your body and temporarily restore you to your peak state so that you can break through to a higher realm. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she took out the 10 sets of medicinal pills and threw them to Hu Zhongtian, along with the 80% contract. The latter's hands were trembling as he took the 10 bottles of pills and the deed of termination. 10 bottles of pills? They could clear out the accumulated diseases in their body and temporarily restore them to their peak state so that they could break through to a higher realm. No one didn't know what these pills represented. It had to be known that for a martial artist of his age, when he tried to break through to a new realm, the biggest obstacle was his own lack of strength. Sometimes, even though his comprehension of the realm had reached a certain level, there was no way for him to break through the shackles and enter a new realm. This was because there were too many diseases in his body. Chapter 1459. Up until now, no one knew just what her status was. Otherwise, she feared that this would set off an extremely powerful shock throughout the entire Sky Spill continent. Even where they were, the revelation of the other party's identity would cause a great commotion. After all, there were already many people who had begun to notice her. Ninth Young Master and evil Dr. Ghost Eye are friends? Chief Steward Cheng asked as he tapped his finger on the table. I guess so. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She raised her hand and handed 2 bottles of pills to Chief Steward Cheng. These 2 bottles of pills have the same medicinal effect as the previous 10 bottles. Many thanks to the Dark Color Arena for helping us this time. When family Hu starts to take over the 80% of the business, I hope that the Dark Color Arena will do its best. Luo Qingtong was well aware that the guest elder token could only allow the Dark Color Arena to help for free once. She had no intention of using the Dark Color Arena to exchange for a second chance. Naturally, she could only start with Chief Steward Cheng. As long as the other party agreed to help family Hu, then she would not need to use a second chance. Haha. Chief Steward Cheng was well aware of this. However, evil Dr. Ghost Eye's pills were too priceless and extremely rare. Moreover, the effects of the pills that Luo Qingtong took out were something that even he coveted. Immediately, he did not decline and directly kept the 2 bottles of pills. Ninth Young Master is overthinking. You are our Dark Color Arena's honored guest. Your matter is our Dark Color Arena's matter. We will do our best. By saying this, he had already agreed to Luo Qingtong's request to help family Hu. As Chief Steward Cheng said this, his fierce eyes swept over everyone present. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the Hua family head and the others. Hua family head, don't you think so? Chief Steward Cheng's words were full of threat. The Hua family head and the others had ugly expressions. Especially the Hua family head. As he watched Hu Zhongtian and the others receive the property deed from Luo Qingtong, his heart was bleeding. At the same time, he felt ashamed and humiliated. After all, everyone knew how much he had looked down on family Hu. Now, more than half of the Hua family's property had fallen into Hu Zhongtian's hands. Not only that, but family Hu had also received the pills bestowed by Luo Qingtong. Just with those 10 bottles of pills, Hu Zhongtian and the others' strength could rise to the next level. Don't underestimate the strength of this level. At their level of strength and age, it was extremely difficult to advance even a single step. Hu Zhongtian and the others obtaining these pills was equivalent to obtaining a chance to improve their strength for free. The Hua family head's eyes read. There was an unspeakable gloominess in his heart. When he heard Chief Steward Cheng's words, he felt his heart. That feeling of wanting to vomit blood viciously tortured him, causing his mouth to be filled with the taste of rust. As the head of a top family clan, The Hua family head had not suffered such a loss for a very, very long time. Not to mention the fact that he was suffering in silence, unable to voice out his bitterness. Yes. He forcefully squeezed out a word from between his teeth in response to Chief Steward Cheng's words. If not for the fact that he still wanted to kill Luo Qingtong, he would have vomited blood and collapsed to the ground. Collect. Let family who collect as much as they wanted. Wait until they entered the Saint King's tomb and killed Yi Jiao. Chapter 1460. The Hua family head was furious as he forcefully swallowed the taste of rust in his mouth. After receiving the Hua family head's response, Chief Steward Cheng nodded in satisfaction and then looked at Luo Qingtong. His gaze was very obvious. He was telling Luo Qingtong that he would definitely do what she asked him to do properly. The Hua family head forcefully swallowed his anger. On the other side, the Ouyang family head was also feeling very uncomfortable. He looked at the 10 bottles of elixirs that Luo Qingtong took out with red eyes and an indescribable gloominess in his heart. Damn it, if they had known that Yi Jiao and the evil Dr. Gui Tong were old friends and could take out such precious elixirs, why would the Ouyang family offend the other party so early on for the sake of the sage doctor? Previously, they thought that offending Luo Qingtong for Feng Wan wasn't a big deal. But at this moment, looking at the various benefits that the family Hu people received and thinking about the shame that he and the Hua family had suffered, the Ouyang family head gritted his teeth in his heart. Even Feng Wan's medical skills, which he had previously taken a fancy to, were somewhat lacking compared to the few bottles of elixirs that Luo Qingtong took out. The 2 words, sage doctor, were really ironic. In front of the elixirs that Luo Qingtong took out, how could Feng Wan be worthy of the 2 words, sage doctor? The Ouyang family head's heart was stuffy and his heart was filled with anger and displeasure towards Feng Wan. If it weren't for him, how could he have become enemies with Yi Jiao again and again? There wasn't even any room for reconciliation now. Otherwise, even if they couldn't obtain these elixirs from the other party, they could at least exchange for them with other things. Disregarding everything else, didn't Yi Jiao want to support the family who with his businesses in Wilderness City? They could also take out some of their businesses to exchange for those elixirs. However, this opportunity was completely ruined by Feng Wan. Even if they took out their businesses, Yi Jiao might not sell them. He was not the only one who thought so. Even the patriarchs of the other top clans had the same thought. They looked at the medicinal pills in Hu Zhongtian and Chief Steward Cheng's hands with envy. However, they had just offended Luo Qingtong. It wasn't easy for the other party to let them off. They simply couldn't open their mouths to ask the other party to buy these medicinal pills. After all, this was different from Luo Qingtong letting them off. Luo Qingtong had let them off before mostly because she wanted to take advantage of the Hua family. After the auction of the sage monarch's tomb, they were more or less aware of the situation. Therefore, he naturally knew that Luo Qingtong would not sell those medicinal pills to them unless something unexpected happened. As the crowd thought of this, they suddenly felt an indescribable sense of regret in their hearts. Their gazes towards the Hua family head and the Hua family became even more unfriendly. It was all because of the Hua family that they had such a deep grudge with Yi Jiao. They had missed such an opportunity to obtain the medicinal pill. Not only that, but the Hua clan had also snatched the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. They worked so hard, but other than offending Luo Qingtong, they didn't get anything else. What a good Hua family head. You Hua family people. Just you wait. The top clans looked angrily at the Hua family head and the others. The pitiful Hua family head and the others had snatched the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, but they had offended a bunch of people. Luo Qingtong had only given one gift to the family whose people and Chief Steward Cheng, but she had already created enough hatred for the Hua family head and Feng Wan. Yu Si Huang watched from the side. The light in his eyes flickered slightly. Chapter 1461. This kind of scheming, this kind of means it was the style of a matriarch. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong had both strength and ability. Yu Xingqi thought for a long time and felt that it was too difficult to find a woman who was comparable to Luo Qingtong and make his brother give up. In this world, who else could be like Luo Qingtong, calm and domineering, scheming but not deep, with many means but extraordinary ability? Yu Xingqi felt that it would be easier to help Yu Si Huang chase Luo Qingtong. Humph! Yu Si Huang coldly snorted and glanced at her with his charming eyes. He didn't know who was the one who gave him all kinds of blows in the past, telling him to quickly give up and find someone else. Yu Xingqi stuck out his tongue and didn't speak. While the brother and sister were whispering, Luo Qingtong had already looked at the Ouyang family head who was sitting on the main seat in front of them with a gloomy and ugly expression. She said, "Ouyang family head, please continue with the Saint Monarch's Tomb conference." Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, and everyone was shocked to realize that they were still participating in the Saint Monarch's Tomb conference. It was just that this conference initiated and hosted by the Ouyang family had completely turned into Luo Qingtong's home ground. The whole venue was her performance. What was there to continue? The head of the Ouyang family gritted his teeth as he thought of this. No need to continue anymore, he said angrily and waved his sleeves heavily. Take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in your hands. Put it together. 3 days later, we will go to the entrance of the Saint Monarch's tomb together. He didn't want to see Luo Qingtong and the others for even a breath of time. Ouyang family head took out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in his hand. Hua family head saw this and couldn't care less about his depressed heart. He raised his hand and took out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb he got from Luo Qingtong. The two looked at Luo Qingtong. The latter just smiled slightly and looked at Yu Sihuang. The corners of the latter's mouth twitched as he took out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. When the 3 maps were placed together and stacked on top of each other, they immediately revealed a brand new pattern. Other than the entrance's topography remaining unchanged, the interior's route had completely changed. The Hua family head and the Ouyang family head impatiently memorized the new route on the map. Yu Sihuang's heart was filled with depression. He looked at Luo Qingtong. Why didn't the girl take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb? When the 4 maps were stacked together, it was the most complete map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. At this moment, the routes revealed by the 3 maps were still lacking. There were still some places where the mechanisms and secret passageways were not completely revealed. Luo Qingtong also wanted to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. A complete map would be of great use to her. She wouldn't hide the map of the Saint King's tomb and not take it out just to spite the Hua and Ouyang family heads, right? Yu Sihuang really didn't know what Luo Qingtong wanted to do. The latter's expression was very leisurely. Luo Qingtong ignored Yu Sihuang's gaze and just watched from the side. When the Hua family head and the Ouyang family head took back their respective maps of the Saint Monarch's tomb, she said to everyone, "Let's go." The group left the Ouyang family. Chapter 1462. As for Yu Sihuang, after dismissing the people from the southern region, he and Yu Xingqi followed Luo Qingtong and the others back to Family Hu. As soon as they stepped through the door of Family Hu's main courtyard, Yu Xingqi could no longer hold it in. "Sister, you still have a map of the Saint King's tomb. Why didn't you take it out?" The map of the Saint King's tomb needs to be superimposed to show the latest route. You have no use for one map by yourself, Yu Xingqi said. As soon as her voice sounded, Hu Zhongtian and the others suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. The latter actually had a map of the Saint King's tomb on her? Even Hu Yenyang looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. She knew that Luo Qingtong had a map in her hands. She originally thought that the map in Yu Sihuang's hands was Luo Qingtong's, and that it was given by Yu Sihuang's hands. Now it seemed that it was not the case. Master obviously had a map in her hands. Why didn't she take it out to make a complete map? Everyone looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. "You will know when you follow me." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, and she did not say much. She directly led Hu Yenyang and the others to Family Hu's main courtyard lobby. Everyone here was on the same side, so Luo Qingtong did not hide anything. She raised her hand and took out the map of the Saint King's tomb from the Celestial Palace, and then stretched out her hand to Yu Sihuang. "Map." Yu Sihuang handed over the map of the Saint King's tomb in his hands to her without any temper. He did not know if Yi Qianxian was also like this in front of her. He speculated in his heart with bad intentions. If that was the case, then there was nothing to be ashamed of in his current appearance. As he was thinking, he suddenly heard a series of exclamations from all around. Yu Sihuang raised his head, and in an instant, his pupils shrank. This is. As far as his eyes could see, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and drew 2 maps of the Saint King's tomb, which were suspended in the air. These 2 maps of the Saint King's tomb were completely composed of spiritual energy, and the markings on them were extremely clear. There was even a flow of spiritual energy in them. As the two maps were completed by Luo Qingtong raised her hand and overlapped the two maps with her and Yu Si Huang's maps. In an instant, a brand new map of the Saint King's tomb completely appeared before everyone. Remember this map of the Saint King's tomb. This is the most complete map of the Saint King's tomb, said. Luo Qingtong looked. And Yu Si Huang. The latter and the others were already stunned by Luo Qingtong's methods. Master? Hu Yenyang was such a mature and steady person. For a moment, he forgot to cover up the way he addressed Luo Qingtong and stuttered. The method that Luo Qingtong showed now could be said to be the work of the gods. That was the map of the Saint King's tomb. A tomb map drawn by a Saint King. How on earth was Master able to completely memorize all the hidden spiritual chi imprints and lines within it? How could it be reproduced without a single mistake? The methods that were revealed were simply too shocking. Everyone looked at the brand new map of the Saint King's tomb that appeared in front of Luo Qingtong and did not know what to say. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.